instead have needed significant financial aid to be able to attend MIT, and we are happy to provide those funds. So students pay only the amount that they can afford to attend MIT, which is very nice. So I come from a less affluent family here in the United States. I attended MIT, and I only could attend MIT because MIT gave me a significant amount of money to be able to afford MIT, which was very nice. Broadly speaking, there are a number of American universities who act in this way, and a number of them are among the most famous in the country. So in addition to MIT, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Dartmouth, and Amherst are all universities that will not consider any student, including international students, consider their financial need in the admissions process, and then will make sure that every student receives the money that they need, which is a luxury that these 6 universities have. For other universities, they will consider often your financial need and how much scholarship they would need to give you to be able to attend, and that may be a factor in your admission. But for a place like MIT and the other 5 universities I mentioned, I feel extraordinarily fortunate to not have that be a factor that the admissions office needs to consider. So finances is not something you need to worry about at MIT or these other places, but something I think you will want to worry about is to improve your English proficiency. Something that we will consider here is how you fit with our mission, which is to use science and technology to benefit society. The way that that happens here is through collaborating with other students. And because MIT is an English language medium university, having proficiency in English is going to be vital to the admissions process. That we want you to be able to contribute in the classroom. We want you to be in a laboratory environment and be able to work deeply with your colleagues who are interested in solving the same kinds of problems that you are. So having a strong English proficiency will be very important. One way that we're going to look at that is through the TOEFL. And for the TOEFL IBT, we're hoping to see scores above 100. The faculty has told us that the minimum score that we can admit is a 90. And I emphasize this because having seen many applications from Kazakhstan over the years, I've seen many excellent students who are very, very good in math and science, who would be excellent MIT students, but I've seen many students whose English language proficiency falls short of our minimums. So I'm not as worried about how good you are at math and science. I'm a little more worried about you being able to share your math and science and engineering knowledge with your fellow students through your English language speaking and listening and writing and reading. So so make sure that that's something that you're focusing on. I want to tell you a little bit more about life at MIT. MIT and hopefully you know this about American universities now, but I think it's a good reminder. MIT, like most American universities, you will come here primarily to study things like math, science, engineering, economics, architecture. Those are the programs that MIT is known for. But unlike universities in most parts of the world, you will study more than just the thing in your intended major. So we think that to truly live MIT's mission, to solve important problems using science and technology, that you have to have a broad humanistic understanding of the world. And for that reason, we'll ask for all students to do roughly a quarter of their coursework at MIT focusing on the humanities, the arts, and the social sciences. So generally that means if you're taking 4 classes in an academic semester, probably one of those subjects at the minimum would be in some kind of humanistic or artistic or social science pursuit. Also, we'll ask for students to do foundational courses in math, science, and engineering. So everyone who comes here, at whatever you major in, even if you are an architecture major or a linguistics major, everyone will still do 2 semesters of mathematics, 2 semesters physics, a semester each of biology and chemistry, a lab class. We think that everyone who graduates from MIT should have a very strong foundation in math and science and a strong foundation in the humanities, arts, and social sciences. So generally speaking, only about half of your courses would actually be in your major. And that's something to think about as you're thinking about what kind of universities you want to consider. What do you want to study and who do you want to study that with? And the American philosophy and the MIT philosophy of having a broad, well-rounded education, if that's something that resonates with you, I think not only will you find an American education exciting, but I think American universities will be very excited to have you. We know that in many countries' education systems, they may begin to have you focus earlier on, and some students we do see from around the world might be focused only on computer science or only on biology. And I think for students who are singularly focused on just one thing, an MIT education or an American education may not be the best match relative to other options you might have. But if you're excited to see the linkages between your area of interest and other important areas of study, to think about things in a cross-disciplinary way, and to make sure that you have a broad foundation from which you can achieve many things, then you may find an American education and an MIT education appealing. And now the reason I'm talking a bit about the American education in addition to just the MIT education is I'm not really here today so much just to sell or promote MIT. I want you to come away from this understanding MIT is one example of an American university. But I know that we only have a small amount of room each year for students. Each year we have roughly 100 international students, and we've had some students from Kazakhstan over the years, but not huge numbers. So it's unlikely that all of you will study at MIT, but it may be likely that if you're thoughtful in your college application process to the United States, that all of you could come to the US, even if not all of you, or if most of you won't be at MIT. So that broad education, which is sometimes called the liberal arts, that's something that's a hallmark of American education and is true even at a science and technology focused university like MIT. It's also a residential environment. So at a place like MIT, we would provide housing for all of our students, and we would ask that all of the students live together. So we bring together students not just from one city or one country, but from around the world. And we think that an important part of the education happens not only in the classrooms and in the laboratories, but also in the residences. That we find that many of the companies that have started at MIT were not started in a laboratory, but were started in the dormitories. That we find that many of the important connections that students make, yeah, some of them may happen in the laboratories, but many of them will happen as they live together and as they eat together and play sport together. So that's an important part of an American education and an MIT education as well, is the residential and the social. We think that that's a very important part of things. So That's a very, very brief talk about MIT and MIT admissions. Maybe would it be more helpful for me to start answering some of the questions that you might have? Is that possible?
Yeah. Matt, thank you so much for a great presentation and overview of MIT, admission to MIT. And what is the minimum of SAT scores, including a critical reading part?
Yeah, so for MIT, we'll require one of the following, either the SAT or the ACT or the TOEFL, Test of English as Foreign Language. And students don't have to submit all three. In fact, many students from Central Asia that I see only will submit the TOEFL of those three. However, whichever of these three you submit, you also have to submit 2 of those SAT subject tests. One in mathematics and one in one of the sciences. So that could be biology, chemistry, or physics. So from Central Asia, generally what we see is just a TOEFL and then 2 subject tests. For the subject tests, which are graded out of 800, generally students are scoring in the high 700s, the most competitive students. On the math and on the science subject tests. For students who do submit the TOEFL, so frequently we do see students who submit the TOEFL and also the SAT, and students that we admit from Central Asia, the critical reading might be low. I think it's true that we have admitted students, international students, with critical reading scores as low as the high 400s. And that does correspond, at least in our experience, roughly with kind of the low to mid 90s on a TOEFL, would be a student scoring the high 400s, low 500s. And we're willing to forgive scores like that that are a little bit lower, especially from parts of the world where we don't frequently see a lot of English language ability, broadly speaking. But that TOEFL really has to be there. So students, it would be great to see TOEFL scores over 100. We're a little bit more lenient on that than other schools. I think that if you want to maximize your opportunity for the most competitive American universities, having a TOEFL above 100, as high as you can really, is going to be really, really important. And as your English language ability grows, your critical reading score and your writing scores will grow as well. So an investment in learning English is an investment that will pay off in this process. But yes, for us, the SAT, critical reading, and things like that will be of a little bit less importance.
Matt, you're mentioning about TOEFL test, but what about IELTS? Do you accept IELTS test?
We are officially, if you look at our website, it says that we do not. That is mostly true. We will consider IELTS on a case-by-case basis and are considering making it an official option, but at this time it is not an official option. If you wish to submit IELTS and not TOEFL, I would ask that during the admissions season you email our office and explain that, and we can give a waiver on that on a case-by-case basis. And you can see the IELTS equivalencies with TOEFL. So a TOEFL 90, which we've said is our minimum, is roughly equivalent to a 6.5 IELTS, and a 100 is roughly equivalent to a 7 IELTS. So to have a 7 or above on the IELTS would be great.
Mm-hmm. And you also mentioned that MIT is very affordable for students, for gifted students who cannot pay. But so it doesn't. It means students don't have to, fill out. They don't have to send, a financial statement from the bank to prove that they have money, as many U.S. colleges, ask for it. So they don't have to. They still have to fill out a financial aid application form. Correct?
Yes, but that will go to a separate office. The admissions office is in MIT's Building 3, and our financial aid office, called Student Financial Services, is located in Building 11. So all of the financial forms will go there, and all of the admissions forms will come to us. So there's no point in our process where we need to see a verification of funds or anything like that. It's very nice. We only have to think about how good of a student you are for MIT, and the financial forms go to the other office. And then if we admit the student, that's when the financial aid office will begin reviewing financial aid forms from the students, and that's when they would say, all right, based on this wage statement or this tax document from the country and the other forms that have been filled out, we think that this student needs a scholarship of however many dollars each year it would be. And for many students that we're admitting from Central Asia, they're receiving scholarships from MIT of 50,000 US dollars and more, just because of what we're seeing. But it's individually for students. So I can't say what your scholarship will be, but the financial aid office, their job is to come up with a financial aid package that would make MIT affordable for you. MIT does not want to lose students who are excellent because of money. We might lose students for other reasons. Maybe you decide that you'd rather go to Oxford or Stanford or somewhere else rather than MIT because you like something about it better, and that's fine. But we don't want you to say, I have to go to this other university because I can't afford to go to MIT. That would be really unfortunate. So all of the financial forms go to the financial services office.
Matt, do you have any programs in art and like drama theater?
So we do offer some majors in the arts and in theater. Generally speaking, students who do theater and music and the visual arts here are doing it as a second major or as a minor or as a mini minor that we call a concentration. So generally speaking, students aren't coming here primarily to study something like theater. But it would be common to see a student who has a primary interest in, say, chemical engineering or in mathematics or economics, which are things that we're very well known for, and then have a second major or a minor in something like theater. So when I think about my friends who I attended MIT with, I can think of one who was a computer science major and took a double major in German, another who was a chemical engineer who took a second major in music, another person I know who was a biologist and took a second major in history, and that's pretty common at MIT. But a student who primarily wants to study theater or primarily wants to study visual art or art history, probably there will be other American universities that are better suited for those students.
What is the deadline for application?
The deadline is January 1st. So January 1st of, oh my goodness, it will be 2016. So maybe I'll say the day after December 31st, 2015. That will be the deadline for applications. And we would let students know in the middle of March. This year we notified students on March 14th. And students who were admitted then have until May 1st to tell us whether or not they're going to take our offer. So right now, today is what? It is April 27th, so we've got a few days left before May 1st. And the students that we've admitted, and this year we admitted roughly 1,400 students, more than half of them have told us whether or not they're enrolling, but we're waiting for those last few to tell us what they're going to do. They have a few more days. And then those students will enroll the beginning of September.
And you don't have any early admission?
So we do have an early action admission program, so you know that there's early action and early decision. Early decision is binding. Early action, what we have, is non-binding. Through this year, we have not offered early action as an option to international students, only to U.S. citizens and permanent residents. I think it may happen that this coming year, it may happen that international students may be able to apply to MIT Early Action. That's a question that we're discussing now in the office. So it's possible that for some of you who will be applying this coming fall, that you may be able to choose the early action option, which the deadline for that is November 1st. And then we notify students in December. And those students are not bound to attend MIT as an early action program. So students who are admitted in December for early action would have until May 1st, like everyone else.
Matt, how many students from Kazakhstan do you have now?
Yeah, I was supposed to look at that before starting the webcast, and I neglected to do so. It is a small number, especially after Bolshak ended, which was good for us while it was there. So I'm going to pull up the number on my phone while we're sitting here, and I will tell you. I think we're going to find it's a single-digit number of students.
I think four. I think four. You have 4 students from Kazakhstan.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, and Matt, another question. Many students want, especially here in Kazakhstan, who have very strong math and like sciences. I mean, how to say, scores in math and sciences, but the English language is not, so probably it's not good for MIT. Do you have any ESL programs so students can come and have like preparation year with their English proficiency, and then they can apply for undergraduate degree?
We don't. So all students that we admit have to be ready to start MIT, including English language fluency, when we admit them. So sometimes we see students who will take a gap year after finishing secondary school in country just to work on English. That's something that happens sometimes. But I know that this excellence in math and science weighed down by the English language struggles. That's something that's real. A couple of years ago, I went to the International Physics Olympiad, which is the best 5 physics students from every country in the world. It's like the Olympics, but it's for physics nerds instead of for athletes. And while I was there, I met some people from the Kazakhstan delegation, students who were on the Physics Olympiad team for Kazakhstan. And there was a student who came up to me and he said, "Hi, I applied to MIT this year. I won a medal at the International Physics Olympiad, but I wasn't admitted. What happened?" And I looked at him and I said, "What was your TOEFL score?" And he said, 76. And I said, "There you go." Because that's the faculty at MIT is hard and fast on that. So students who have that level of excellence are very appealing to us, doing things such as the International Physics Olympiad, but without that English language ability that they can bring to MIT starting from the first day, there's not going to be anything we can do.
Okay, Matt. I think we don't have any questions here. Yeah, please. We have students here who are planning to study at the boarding school in the United States before applying to U.S. colleges. And is it good for students who are taking AP classes, or honors classes?
At American boarding schools, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so students who come to American boarding schools, they certainly have a number of advantages. One is, showing being successful in an English language medium environment. If you can succeed in classes in the United States, that's a good indication to us that you'll be able to succeed here. I think it's also a way that students can show that they can survive a big social change. That something that we think about when we're admitting students is how will they adapt to moving to Cambridge, Massachusetts, to living away from home, living in the dormitories, away from family and friends. And students who do boarding schools, we can see evidence of that earlier. So that's something that we are that I think will be to your advantage in a number of ways. And that's not to say that those of you who will stay in country and apply to the States from just schools in your country are at any disadvantage. But you may want to think about ways that you can show those kinds of things in your application, both your English language ability as well as kind of your adaptability to a new situation, which probably you'll have some examples of that as well.
Okay, Matt, we need to leave a compound before 8 p.m. by local time. So thank you so much, and Matt, I can send you the list of participants today, and you can then contact them directly. So thank you so much for being today with us, and thanks for a great presentation, and all questions you are answered. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.